and welcome to another live chapter reading for Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Today I shall be reading from Stormy's Thunder by Manda Mellett. Chapter 1, Swift. If you two are getting down to fuck, will you get a fucking room? Bolt sneers good-humouredly as he walks into the club room, his eyes rolling as he catches my eye. Lying relaxed on my man's lap, my cheek resting against his chest, I'm too lazy to do much more than give Bolt a two-fingered salute. Are you claiming victory or giving in the equivalent of a finger? Honor asked, his brow furrowed. I can never tell. It's my turn to roll my eyes. Yeah, I'm bilingual when it comes to non-verbal swearing, as they well know. Being from the UK, I'm more used to the British version, home to a fine art during my military days. The altercation has attracted attention. Duty, passing a beer to Honor, stares and shakes his head. Never thought I'd see the day when you went soft, Swift. There's nothing about me that's soft, as well he knows. His comment causes me to growl. Want to find out just how fucking soft I am? I'm not soft. Rose's chest vibrates beneath me, and we definitely won't be unless you stop wriggling. Geez, they're going to start going at it in a moment. Now Piston gets a V-sign with my palm facing inward directed towards him. Just in case he doesn't understand it, I jerk my middle finger towards him as well. Rose chuckles lazily. I remind him, if we hadn't patched you in, I was going to ask Prez to make you a sweet butt. But you'd have been the only one to use me. So I doubt I'd have had a problem with that. His lips curve at the corners. Fact is, I'd probably enjoy it. Nothing to do but lie around waiting on your command. Don't be too certain, preacher, the sergeant at arms drawls lazily. Any port in the storm and all that. Sweet butts can't refuse a patch member. You want my ass? Rhodes snorts. Preacher grins widely. Nah, not me, brother, but last week at the party I saw the way Grinch was looking at you. He did seem quite focused on your backside. Unfortunately, I'd just taken a mouthful of beer and now it spits out of my mouth, all over me and the body I'm lying on. Bolt chucks over a box of tissues and we take a few moments wiping the mess up. I take the opportunity of rolling my arse over my man's cock as I do. He winces and grabs me tighter. Vixen, he says into my ear, you're going to pay for that. I hope I do. One thing my old man's certainly got going for him is now he can use his cock. I think it's almost time we call it a night and go back to our room. It's definitely hard and my knickers are definitely on the damp side. Glancing over my shoulder, I see him grinning at me and smirking. It's hard to know why I held out for so long, kidding myself I wasn't attracted to him. I had been so wrong. Rhodes my soulmate, the other half of me, and we've now been together for 2 months and our relationship is only growing stronger. A paw at my leg tries to get my attention. Someone's feeling neglected. Grinning, I stretch out my hand, stroking the head of App, my hearing dog, gently pulling at his silky ears. Rhodes and App. They both brought something to my life. I realise I've become more relaxed since they've been around. They've brought out a side of me that's human. It's not gone unnoticed. Glancing around at my brothers, I know that I'm really accepted and no longer feel the need to prove myself. They're happy to take me as I am. Maybe they always did, but I hadn't allowed myself to see it. I can be a woman in love and still be a badass. Will you get me another drink, babe? Rhodes asks. I'd get it myself, but you're weighing me down, he winks. I'm too comfortable where I am. And there's an easier way to get the job done without me moving. Prospect, I yell. 2 beers. Coming right up, Gears calls back. He'll be quick about it too if he wants to patch in. I watch as he hurriedly snaps the tops off 2 bottles and comes across the room at all but a run with one in each hand. It won't be long until he's joining us around the table, but as a good prospect, he's showing no impatience or signs he's getting fed up with being at our beck and call while he's waiting. I'm stretching out the 3 remaining fingers of my right hand to receive mine, the beer tantalising within reach when there's a loud roar of an engine and then a crash which shakes the club room. Instead of landing in my grasp, the bottle slips from Gear's hand. What the fuck? Thor, the VP, roars, already all on his feet. I've gone from prone to upright in 1 second flat and Rhodes just as fast as on his feet behind me. His gun already in his hand, Thor waves us on ahead to the stairwell as we're closest to the door and already in motion. I slide my weapon out behind us. There's a thundering of feet, as well as a whir of the elevator moving. Before I exit the door, a glance shows Thor's got everything in order as he makes quick hand signals, choosing Gears, Piston and Rascal to stay back. Immediately they take up positions ready to take out any visitors who shouldn't be here, while the rest follow Rhodes and me down the stairs. Flying down them 2 at a time, I'm in the lead as we enter the reception area. Immediately I note Brute, who should be manning the desk, is nowhere to be seen. Holding my weapon in the ready-to-fire position, I scan the area, but see nothing or anybody. What you got? Thor hisses with one hand on the banister as he jumps the final few steps. "Here," Brute calls from outside the building. "Need help." Suspicious, expecting a trap, I call back. "Stat report?" "You need to fucking see this," he replies fast in a tense voice. I glance at Rode, who raises his chin back. Like me, he's assessed Brute's not acting as if he's in any danger. Instead, his tone sounds incredulous. Still prepared to be wrong, I signal my instruction to Rode and Thor, who's now beside him, to cover me as I go to the door. I ease my way through the turnstile-like affair, turning sideways to make myself less of a target. Once outside, my eyes scan right and left, then to the front again as I check the perimeter, until I assess there's no visible threat. I let my gaze fall on the prospect crouched next to something on the ground. What the fuck? Brute is kneeling next to a motorcycle that's obviously crashed into the building, lying on its side with the front wheel still turning. There, prone on the ground beside it, is a person who must have been riding it. Brute glances up, relief flooding over his face as he sees help has arrived. Still holding my pistol at the ready, I sink into a crouch. When I feel a tap on my shoulder, I look up to find Thor giving me a sharp nod. Jerking my head, I see the brothers are piling out of the building and taking defensive positions. Knowing they're surrounding me, I holster my gun. "What you got?" I ask the prospect. I don't know if he's fucking breathing. Brute's hands are hovering over the body as if he doesn't know what to touch. "Let me look," I direct, and the prospect slides out of the way. From behind and above, I hear Thor snap out instructions. "Check the perimeter, make sure he's alone. Bolt check the back for explosives." I'm not the only one thinking the injured man could be a distraction. Is he playing possum? Knowing Thor will have my back if he is, I lean forward and place my fingers to the pulse in the neck of the man who's so still. I'm not surprised that Brute thinks he could be dead. As I feel a very faint beat, I know he's still alive, but possibly not for much longer. The pulse is weak and bradycardic. I still measuring the beats, I examine the body. It's twisted, broken, some of it no doubt from the crash, but with my expert eyes I see there are too many injuries to have only just happened. In the light spilling out from the clubhouse behind, it's clear some of the bruises on the man's face are yellowing. His jaw is swollen and one eye's firmly shut, the other only just open, and blood's obscuring his features. This man has been badly beaten. "Bike's clean," Bolt reassures me when we're not at risk of being blown up in an explosion. "He's breathing?" "Barely." "Need a bus?" I make another assessment. Could we call in our friendly doc and have him check over the intruder? It's apparent that the answer is no. This man's hanging on to life by a thread. Yeah, if any man ever did, this one needs seriously medical attention. That's if we want to keep him alive and find out what the hell has disturbed our evening. Is he a messenger bringing something to tell us? Or maybe he's a message itself. But he's not one of us, though I only know that because we're all present and accounted for. This man is a stranger. With his facial injuries and his body lying so crooked, it's hard to tell if he's tall or short. Even if I'd met him before, I'd have difficulty making an identification. "Recognise him?" Thor asks, sinking to his haunches by my side, with his knees cracking noisily. He certainly does not. As he starts searching gingerly through his pockets, he brings out a driver's licence. The denial I was about to voice fades from my lips when something catches my eye. My breath hitches and reaching out, I peel back the collar of the injured man's jacket, recognising a jagged lightning tap. "God fucking damn it, it's fucking Stormy." "You sure?" Thor sounds incredulous as he rocks back. "Stormy? I'm sure. See that tap? That's his." "Jesus H. Christ." "Stormy," Bolt roars. "He's dead or dying." I stand. Honestly, if I was going to try to do anything like stem the blood flow, I'd be hard-pressed to know where to start. As it is, my own hands are already bloody. I wipe them off on my jeans. Almost the first, probably the last. "You think we should move him?" Preacher asked, looking dubiously down at the body. "Nah," Thor raises to his feet. "He's smashed up pretty bad. We'll wait for the paramedics to get here." He glares down. "If you want to find out what the fuck's going on, we'll just have to hope they can patch him up and get him talking." The way Stormy's looking, though, I wouldn't waste betting any money he's going to make it. The VP glances down at his licence he holds in his hand. He's travelling undercover. This says he's Jeremiah Briggs. "Stolen?" Prez, having just arrived, steps up and asks. "Are you certain," he glances dubiously down at the body, "that it's really him?" "No, not stolen, and yeah, it's Stormy. The photo is of him." Thor hands it to Snatcher. "It's a good fake." "Fuck it, Stormy, why come back like this? One thing I don't like is mysteries. Well, when I can't solve them, that is. If he dies right here and now, I doubt we'll ever get to the bottom of where he's been or who beat him so badly. 2 months ago, he'd walked out on the club, leaving his cut behind. We've been searching since then and have never found the hint of a trail leading to him. Everyone is here now, all standing around, Rascal's knees, but makes the same assessment as I did. He might know first aid, but fuck, where do we start with a man injured within an inch of his life? Blood is flowing from multiple wounds and staining the concrete. I roll my neck back, and catching Rhodes' eye, I shake my head. Why did this have to happen, and how? Stormy's never been a favourite of mine. Most of the time when he was here I ignored him, and it's safe to say there were more than a few times I actively hated him. Though he was a brother, I'd have given my life for his, but in his case I wouldn't have done so gladly. Stormy was an objectionable ass. There had been nothing in my view to redeem him. He nearly lost the club its charter. Accepting there's nothing I can do now, I go to Rhodes and lean into him, feeling his arm come supportively around me while in my head I go back in time to that meeting with Drummer, the pres of the mother chapter of the Satan's Devils, and 3 other preses of the club. Of course it sticks in my memory. It was also the meeting where it was accepted that I, as a female of exceptional calibre, could be allowed to be a full member. It had been touch and go at first. I'd spent a soul-destroying half hour thinking I was going to be kicked out. I'd then been relieved that it had been decided that Stormy's crimes were all his and not sanctioned by the Utah chapter. His punishment? Well, that might have been my suggestion. I thought it deserved to be hit where it hurts. Drummer had quickly agreed to my proposal. Stormy was to be busted back down to Prospect for 6 months and was to receive a beatdown. But instead of waiting to take his punishment for the wrongs he had done to the Satan's Devils, Stormy had run. In doing so, he'd committed the major offence of disrespecting his cut and leaving it behind. As enforcer, I'd wanted him dead. Such disregard to his brothers could mean he was a danger to the club, but others were more understanding and prepared to give him the space and time to get his head around his sentence. They were convinced that he'd return and do his penance like a man. However, as days then weeks passed with no sign, those periods of 7 days had all added up until finally they became a month, and that quickly became 2. We had to face that we'd harboured a coward within our ranks. Of course, we tried to locate him, but even with all the technical skills at our disposal, no trace of him could be found. I started to side with those who'd thought him dead already, his bike run off the road and his body waiting to be discovered. Bolt held out that he'd left the country. Stormy might have been gone, his absence an embarrassment to the club, but that wasn't all. The Utah chapter itself was on probation, and that we failed to locate one of our own was met with suspicion. Snatcher, our pres, had had his work cut out convincing Drummer we weren't lying, and we weren't giving shelter to a man who disrespected the Satan's Devils patch. God damn it, Stormy, you've got to wake up and give us answers, or else Drummer could dissolve our chapter. As I tense, Rhodes tightens his arms around me. The sound of distant sirens pulls me out of my reverie. It spurs Pip to step forward. Until 2 months back he was our pres. Now he's just a consultant, but he's sharp as a tack. When he speaks, we listen. Snatch, he puts his hand on the pres's arm. Buy us some time. He's got ID. Go with that. No one needs to know he's back until we know what we're dealing with. And if he dies? Snatcher asks, turning to stare at the man whose place he'd taken. You know there's a good chance Drummer will take away our charter if Stormy doesn't come back. He doesn't believe that with all our technical skills we can't find him. Pip stares, his eyes narrowing. Just asking for some time, pres. There's no irony in the way he could Snatcher the title. Fuck knows where Stormy's been or what he's been up to, but if he's bringing trouble on the club, it will buy us time to decide how to deal with it. Time's running out for Snatcher to make a decision. On my part, I think coming clean is best. Send Stormy to the hospital, then contact Drummer and tell him he's come back. But Pip spent his life shrouded in the shadows. Mistrust and suspicion taints the air that he breathes, and he still holds sway with the pres. Snatcher gives a reluctant sigh. We'll play it your way for now, Pip. An engine cuts out next to us and the siren is switched off. As brothers step back, clearing the way to the injured man, we let the paramedics do their work. I've got a weak pulse, one says. He's bradycardic. I could have told you that. The first one tries to get a line in and starts a drip going. Let's load him up. His eyes taking all as bystanders. I'm not sure we can save him, but we'll get him in fast. We'll follow you. You're taking him to Memorial? The paramedic confirms to Snatcher that they are. Once the doors of the ambulance close, the sirens restart and it disappears away from the clubhouse. Christ, I lean into Rhodes. If we were ever going to see Stormy again, I'd imagined him coming back, striding in nonchalantly in his arrogant way. He'd have taken his punishment like a man. I had personal experience that he wasn't afraid of pain. I was convinced he'd have walked back in under his own steam, or not, in which case we'd never have seen him again. What I didn't dream of was seeing him back like this. A man so close to death, it's hard to see how he manages to keep breathing. I don't know what to think or how to feel. and from the looks around me, I'm not the only one. He's one of our own, but he's not. He chose to leave us behind, leave his precious cup behind. It's he who's abandoned us. But as Snatcher steps toward his bike, something draws us all to mount up as well, and to follow where Stormy's been taken. Maybe it's just because we live on information and data, and right now we've got none. The burning questions are why he came back in the way that he has, and who has beaten him. On my part, I wanted him to live so I can get answers, and once I know, I'll happily kill him myself. Thor, as VP, rides beside Snatcher. As Enforcer, I take my place right behind them, alongside Preacher. The other brothers sort themselves out, with Road as road captain, taking his place at the end of the column. When we arrive, we pull up and park, taking over half a dozen parking slots. It's a Thursday, but the emergency room is busy. Thor tilts his head towards Prez. When he gets a chin lift in return, he takes the lead. I watch him disappear through the glass doors and step up to the reception desk. After a moment, he comes back. He made it here, still breathing, and they're working on him now. There's a family room they said we could use. As we walk in, I glance around, noticing that quite a few chairs have been quickly vacated, with injured people and their friends shifting themselves up to make space, everyone eyeing us suspiciously. I'm not surprised. We're all wearing our cuts and no one wants to mess with the Satan's devils. I almost hear the collective sigh of relief as we're directed to the room the receptionist had mentioned. They're not going to tell us shit, Judy points out. We're not fucking relatives. He hasn't got any. Friends and relatives were the first people we checked out when trying to locate him. It had either been a dead end. Stormy, it seemed, had none of either. Thor shifts guiltily with a sideways glance to us. He has. Honor takes a seat and stretches out his long legs. So who's playing his brother, or is Pip going to be his dad? Neither, Thor gives a quick grin. I told them Swift's his wife. Jeez, I roll my eyes. Go for the fucking obvious, why don't you? I might not have a dick, but I'm a brother just like any of them. Let's hope he doesn't have amnesia, Piston snorts. When Curious Eyes goes to him, he elaborates. If he has and he's told Swift's his woman, he might want to make good on that. He'll be fucking dead for a certain if he puts his hands near her, Road growls, a possessive arm wrapping round me. I place my hand on my man's chest. When he looks down, I just level a stare at him, making him hastily backtrack. Oh, Swift will just take care of him herself. You bet, lover, I say softly. The door to the room opens, and Snatcher, who'd been waiting outside for Pip to park his cage, now enters with him. Prez takes a deep breath and asks, "He's still in the land of the living?" For now, his VP tells him. The next few minutes are taken up with different conversations, all trying to make sense of what's happened tonight. It's futile, and as we go around in circles, all anyone knows is that Stormy appeared out of nowhere and crashed into the flood of the front of the clubhouse. Well, at least he's back, Pip says quietly. It will take the heat off, that's for sure, when I update Drummer. Preston is uncertain whether we're taking the correct action by not coming clean immediately. And who's to say he's not been beaten by another chapter? Pip said, Pip had been our Prez for 10 years, though has shit going against him that prevents him legitimately wearing a Satan's Devil's Cup. Not in our eyes, but in the view of the other chapters, the regulations are strict. If a member can't ride, he has to turn in his patch. We'd known that, of course, which was why Snatcher had always been the outward face of the Utah Club. Something Drummer had seen as betrayal and another reason to mistrust us. One thing, though, Pip should find that easy to understand, as he himself doesn't trust easily. He doesn't even trust the other Satan's Devils chapters. If he's dead, it won't matter, Thor says reasonably. If he lives, well, we'll be able to find shit out, and fuck it, he pauses, looking round at everyone. He may have left behind his cup, but he's ours to punish. It's up to no one else. I'm kind of with Pip here. It's a different cult call, and we're already in enough trouble with the mother chapter. But what if Pip's right, and another Satan's Devil took our retribution? Glancing round, it's clear I'm not the only one who's angry at the suggestion. It's my man who tries to bring out the heat in the room down, and getting to his feet and asking, "Anyone want a drink?" Guess we're going to have a long fucking wait. It appears everyone does. Honor and Cowboy volunteer to go with him, and return juggling cardboard boxes containing sodas, coffees, and an assortment of sugars and creamers. No tea on offer, though. I make do with a bottle of water. By the time the first coffee is drunk, the door again opens. This time in steps Grinch, Goofy, and Mystic, our 3 old-timers who live at our old clubhouse and maintain the outward face of the Satan's Devils MC Utah chapter. After going through it all again, and after another round of drinks, we settle back. There are a few conversations, but most of us are lost in our own heads of what the fuck has happened to Stormy. And will he survive to tell us? My mind keeps circling back to his arrival being a forewarning of trouble heading to the club. I hate the not knowing. A few hours pass before the door opens again. This time it's by a man wearing a stethoscope around his neck. "Mrs. Briggs," wrote Jasmine aside. "Yeah, that's me. I'd forgotten I was supposed to be Stormy's wife and hadn't recognised the name we'd booked him in under." I put a suitably concerned expression on my face. Unfortunately, tears for Stormy are beyond me. "How is he?" The doctors eye me as I stand, but I can't read his face. He looks weary. "He's alive," he indicates the door and is presumably suggesting that I step out into the corridor. I indicate Thor, ready to explain I need someone with me to hear the news about my husband, but I didn't have to worry. It seems an almost widow. I don't need to explain. It doesn't take us far, just a few steps outside. There he leaves his hand against the wall. "I'm afraid your husband's in a bad way. Do you know what happened to him?" "I don't," I admit. "He crashed into the clubhouse. That's all I or anyone knows." The doctor looks down before once again meeting my eyes. He's taken quite a beating, not all of it the result of the crash. We're still trying to assess all the internal injuries. I had to mend a tear on one of his kidneys. We think we've stopped the bleeding for now anyway. He's got 4 broken ribs, 1 punctured his lung." He pauses for a moment. "You say he rode his bike?" I nod. He shakes his head. "Impossible, not with those injuries. There's a contusion on his head that could have come from the crash, and a broken left femur, but not much else was caused by him coming off the motorcycle. His right radius is broken. He has a fractured collarbone." He eyes Thor, then me, as though assessing how much he could say. "He wouldn't have been able to ride." Nevertheless, I harden my voice. "He did." A disbelieving sigh comes, though some of his injuries are consistent with torture. He's got burns all over his body, a severe concussion, and one of his eardrums is ruptured. "Would it be easier to tell us what isn't broken?" Thor states dryly. I shoot Thor a warning look. "Is it going to make it, Doc?" I don't need to fake sounding anxious. "God damn it, Stormy, you've got to wake up and I need answers." I'm trying my best. He seems to hone in on Thor's VP patch. "I'm not going to report this." Thor straightens his back. "Cops won't be interested. He's a member of a 1%er club." "Mrs. Briggs, I'd prefer you didn't," I tell him. "I just want him better." Thank you very much for listening to this chapter reading. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go check out the book. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.